All right, good morning, class. Welcome back to Unit 5. This is video 3, and today we're going to be finishing up Greek culture. So all of our Greek information will be done after today, and then we'll be entering into the Roman Empire. So, the culture of a civilization reflects its values and character of its people. The Greeks appreciated beauty, freedom, justice, truth, and knowledge. They exalted the person who had a creative spirit and versatile talents. They had a thirst for knowledge. They appreciated and celebrated physical ability, and they just had a zest for life. The Greek respect for self-control, restraint, balance, and moderation is evidence in this Greek motto that they were known for. The Greek motto that the majority of Greeks tried to live their life by was nothing in excess and everything in proportion. So these qualities characterized much of the Hellenic culture. Now, we need to talk about that term Hellenic. That is the term that we use today to describe Greek culture. The Greeks called themselves the Hellenes, and their land was Hellas. And so the height of Hellenic culture occurred during the Golden Age of Athens. So that was when the spirit of independence and self-sufficiency was strong. And that was when they had just defeated the Persians and they were bolstered by that win. And this produced the flowering Hellenic culture in Athens. Most of the Greek men whose achievements history remembers lived in this city. Ancient Greece has been called sometimes the cradle of Western culture. Greek culture left a lasting imprint on the Western world. We even see it in our world today. The Greeks set forth many of the basic concepts of science and math and philosophy and literature and architecture and sculptures that later civilizations would imitate. So, although Alexander's armies never conquered the world, Greek culture did subdue a large part of it, if you think of it that way. Alexander's conquest spread the Greek language and the way of life through and their way of life through much of the ancient world. So as a result, Hellenic or Greek culture mixed with the other cultures in the East, and new cultures started to emerge. So then it became no longer Hellenic, but Hellenistic, like the Greek. So if it is truly Greek, we say it's Hellenic. If it is like the Greek, like some of the things that we see in our world today, we see a Hellenistic influence. It's like the Greek. So Hellenistic culture permeated the Near East from the time of Alexander until the coming of the Romans in the first century BC. And so we're going to go through the different, just lightly touch on the different areas of Greek civilization that had an impact on the rest of the world. So we're going to start with philosophy, and then we'll go from there. So to the Greeks, the ability to think and reason made man unique. His humanity was thus worthy of special study. The Greeks were first among the first to begin the formal study of human thought and culture, and they called them the humanities, which is what we still call them today. In fact, every history class falls under the category of humanities because it is the study of human behavior. Philosophers and scientists praised the human mind and its reasoning powers. Greek literature dealt with how man lived and acted. The goal of physical activity was to develop the human body towards physical perfection. Greek art focused on the human form. So, throughout the history of Greek culture, men have looked for answers to the basic questions of life. Let me see if I. Oh, okay. So we are going to get into sections here where you are going to have to take a lot more notes on your own. I would like you to start now with kind of our general interest of philosophy, I want you to write down the four questions that they were trying to answer in philosophy. All right. So philosophers means lovers of wisdom, and there's a quite a few in Greek culture. And the philosophers believed that the highest good was to seek truth and attain knowledge. And their big questions that they were trying to answer was number one, where did I come from? Number one, where did I come from? Number two, why am I here? Number two, why am I here? Number three, where am I going? Number three, where am I going? Number four, what is the highest good in life? Number four, what is the highest good in life? And I would contend that these are the main questions that people still try to answer today. So, early in their history, the Greeks had developed myths to help them answer these questions, but around the 6th century, they lost confidence in their myths. They saw that they weren't actually answering the big questions of life. And that's when philosophy and lovers of wisdom came came to be a popular study. So let's go over some of the few of the guys that really made an impact in philosophy. Number one, we have Thales of Miletus. What I want you to know about him is he is called the father of philosophy. Among the Greeks, Thales was one of the first who sought to explain the origin of the universe in natural terms. He concluded that water was the original substance of all things. He and other early philosophers did not deal with the questions of ethics, like what is right or wrong. They would leave that to later philosophers. But I want you to know that Thales was the father of philosophy and that he sought to explain the origin of the universe. And he concluded that it had to do something with water. Our second person is Socrates. He was a contemporary of Pericles. So he was alive at the same time as Pericles. So he was alive during Athens' golden age. And he devoted his life to seeking truth and teaching men how to conduct their lives. He took as his motto, know thyself. All right. So I'd like you to know that Socrates was alive during the same time as Pericles or like during the golden age. And his motto was know thyself. According to Socrates, the unexamined life is not worth living. He was saying you have to think through things. Um, you can't just accept things as they are and not question yourself or things around you. Be curious. Socrates was not a writer, but a teacher. We know that he taught, we know what he taught by what his students wrote about him. His method of teaching involved the asking of leading questions, followed by the analyzing of student answers. Soc Socrates believed the truth, like absolutes, could be attained through human reason. To Socrates, virtue was knowledge and ignorance produced evil. Thus, reason was the best guide to good behavior. He was not well liked at his time I don't know, he was polarizing. Half the people liked him, half the people didn't. Many in Athens objected to Socrates' questioning of some of the fundamental institutions of the city. They accused him of corrupting the youth and rejecting the gods of Athens. And he was tried and condemned to death, and he refused to flee or escape, and he took the punishment, which was death by poison. Socrates calmly drank the cup of hemlock, which is a poison, which was his sentence of death, and it was carried out, and he died at the age of 70, surrounded by his followers. Our next guy is Plato. He is probably the most famous student of Socrates. Okay, so Socrates taught Plato. He established a school of philosophy and science called the Academy, and it was located in Athens. In the Republic, he devised one of the first plans for an ideal society and government. And even though he lived in democratic Athens, he realized that too much liberty and freedom without restraint often led to anarchy or the breakdown of government and order. So he stated that the excess of liberty, whether in states or individuals, seemed only to pass into excess of slavery. Hmm, that's a good one. Think about that. Excess of freedom and liberty in an individual can pass on to excess of slavery. Think about that in your own life. Think about that in terms of your relationship with God. Understanding these types of concepts hopefully will help you see why God is a loving God by giving us boundaries. Boundaries are a healthy thing because if we don't have boundaries, we do end up excess of liberty equaling excess of slavery. And so when we have certain boundaries given to us about morals and right and wrong that the Lord gives us in His scripture, those are actually acts of love, even though they are hard sometimes to implement. So just ponder that a little bit with Plato. Um, Let me see if there's anything else I want you to know about Plato. In his works, Plato discovered what he considered to be true reality. He determined that something would have to be permanent, aka eternal, in his words, to be truly real. Since nothing in this world is permanent, Plato concluded that the true reality lies outside the physical world. The things on earth are mere shadows or imperfect reflections of their eternal counterparts or forms seen in an unseen realm. Is he getting close to the what the Bible says? Yeah, he is. Now he wasn't a believer, but he's through logic and reason getting very close to what was reality. Reality lying outside the physical world, that's the eternal world around us that we don't even get to see at the moment. Sometimes I think we forget that this chapter here on earth is actually just the first introductory chapter to the rest of our life in eternity. Um, and that's what he came to with logic and reason. So, big thing about Plato is he started the School of Athens, or excuse me, the Academy. He commented on liberty as well as what is true reality. Now we're going to move on to Aristotle, and he is the last of the three famous Greek philosophers. Aristotle was not an Athenian like the other two, but he came to Athens from northern Greece. And at the age of 18, he began to study at Plato's academy. Plato called his most famous student the mind of the school. So, like Plato, Aristotle has had a continuing impact on the Western thought and through his writings. Aristotle, as we learned earlier, was also the tutor of Alexander the Great, and he instilled in the young prince an appreciation for Greek culture. Unlike Plato, Aristotle believed that reality was in the physical world. Therefore, he developed wide interests in many fields. He wrote treatises on politics, biology, physics, art, drama, math, ethics, you name it, he wrote about it. He is best remembered, though, for his work on logic, which are collectively called the organon or instrument. to aid man's reasoning ability. Aristotle developed the syllogism. Now, do you want you to know that word syllogism? That is Syllogism. Syllogism. And a syllogism is a three-step logical process of thinking. So here's kind of an example of a syllogism. One, all Greeks are human. Two, Aristotle is a Greek. Three, therefore, Aristotle is human. So that was kind of one of his methods of teaching and strengthening the logical muscle in his students' minds, was using the syllogism. If this and this, therefore that. All right. So hopefully you've got the key ideas for each one of the big three philosophers. And I hope you start to see one of the cool things about the power of teaching, right? We see all that, how all of these guys were interconnected, right? Thales of Miletus set the groundwork, made philosophy a study. Socrates studied it. His student was Plato. Plato's student was Aristotle. Aristotle's student was Alexander the Great. That, when we talk about standing on the shoulders of giants, this is a good example of that statement, where one person gives all of their knowledge and experience to the next generation through their students and or through their children, and then it goes down each generation, and each generation gets a little further in progress and a little bit better than the last generation before them, but it's only because they're standing on the shoulders of the teachers that came before them or the parents that came before them. So think about that statement with your own life, standing on the shoulders of giants. Whose shoulders are you standing on? If names are popping into your mind, those are the people that you should thank. We need to always have grateful hearts. The Lord has blessed us in 1,000 ways every day. And one of the biggest ways that He blesses us is through other people. So if people's minds or people's names are coming to your mind right now about like, man, I could not have gotten this far without them. I've learned so much about this particular topic from this person. I would challenge you to go thank those people. Maybe write them a note, maybe just thank them tonight and say, hey, I'm very thankful for you. Thank you so much for whatever it is that they've taught you, that they've invested in you. Um, but I challenge you to have a heart of gratitude today. All right, let's move on to our Greek philosophers and in all the other areas. Like these are the people that contributed in science, medicine, and math. Now, I want you to write a lot less than you just did for Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, okay? Like you are putting one idea per person, okay? This is this is the type of thing where it would be a wonderful matching section on your test, right? So one idea per person. This should be just a little phrase. So the questions raised by the Greek philosophers concerning man and his world encouraged others to seek natural or logical explanations through observation. And this was even before the Golden Age. This was starting to happen. So the first guy I need you to know is Pythagoras. And if his name sounds familiar, you know why. You've probably talked about him in math class. He was a philosopher and a mathematician in the 6th century BC, and he concluded that the universe could be explained in mathematical terms. And his geometric um, theorem, the Pythagorean theorem, is still studied in geometry. So I just want you to know about him. He is the creator of the Pythagorean theorem, and he made advances in geometry. All right, Pythagoras, geometry. Our second guy is Hippocrates. He is the famed physician of the Golden Age. He's known as the father of medicine. There you go. That's what I want you to know. Hippocrates is the father of medicine. After studying in Athens, Hippocrates became a wandering physician, and he just traveled through Greece and Macedonia and really wherever he wanted. And contrary to common Greek myths, which held that disease was the punishment of the gods, Hippocrates taught that every illness has a natural cause. And that's what we believe today. It came from Hippocrates. He rejected magic and superstition and instead recommended rest and proper diet to help with proper treatment. He wrote manuals that preserved his findings, and other physicians built off of those manuals. So Hippocrates is the father of medicine. He believed in natural causes, not punishment from the gods. Our next guy, Euclid, he is known as the father of geometry. He founded a school of mathematics in Alexandria, Egypt, and his textbook was called Elements, continued to be the basis of the geometry textbooks today. The Greek inventor and mathematician Archimedes was born in that area, and he was known for his work with Euclid. One of Archimedes' most famous things that he discovered was the principle of the lever, the practical value of which is illustrated by when you raise a car with a jack. That was Archimedes. Um, let's see. I need to skip a little bit because, ooh, we just don't have time for everybody. Eratosthenes, he's not on your list, but he was the father of circumference of the globe and geometry and figuring out. He formulated longitude and latitude. Eratosthenes did. So we, still use that in geography. Um, so it's just crazy to think that like something like longitude and latitude was figured out in like 6th century BC era, and we still use it today. Anyways, I digress. Let's go on to Herodotus. Now, you have read and heard of Herodotus before, and some of the primary documents that we've read through um, with our ancient world study, we have read Herodotus. So we get our word history from the Greek word meaning inquiry. The Greeks believed that men could learn lessons from the past to help them live in the present. And that's why we still study history. Herodotus is the father of history, and he wrote his history of the Persian Wars in the hopes of preserving from decay the remembrance of what men have done and of preventing the great and wonderful actions of the Greeks and the barbarians from losing their due need of glory, and withal to put on record what were their grounds of feud. So, even though Herodotus did his best to be accurate, his work contains um, probably the number one thing that we've talked about and you've seen as we read through. His work contains exaggerations. And so there was obviously a bias towards the Greeks, but we still remember him greatly because he was the only one writing down what happened with the Greeks for some of the events, and he was like the first historian. So Herodotus, the father of history. Then we have Thucydides. Oh, yeah, I always get his name mixed up. Thucydides. That's what it is. He was a contemporary of Herodotus. He was kind of writing around the same time. He wrote the history of the Peloponnesian War, which was a more accurate and more objective record than Herodotus's work. So he was Athenian, and he even fought briefly um, for Athens during the war with Sparta. He was much better about not letting his personal affections influence his account of the war. So Thucydides is the better historian. Herodotus is the first historian. Now, moving into the drama aspect. There's two big names that I want you to know here. So let me talk a little bit about Greek drama. So the Greek achievement in literature was unsurpassed in the ancient world. Homer's epic poems are the monument of early Greek literature. Later Greeks excelled in poetic drama, and it was an outgrowth of their religious festivals. So drama actually became a very important part of Greek culture and life. And in Athens, for example, they had several days that were set aside each year for drama festivals. They would Shops were closed, schools had holiday, and the entire population of the city attended outdoor performances. And the Greeks held contests to determine the best plays and the best actors. So Greek drama provided more than just entertainment. The plays educated the Greek people in religious beliefs, moral behavior, and civic pride. So both tragedy and comedy were among the favorite forms of Greek drama. So our first guy that you need to know in the Greek drama world is Sophocles. He was a writer of tragedy. Sophocles wrote tragedy. Then we have Aristophanes, and he was a writer of comedy. So these two are the most famous Greek drama people. Many of the Greek dramas are still enjoyed today. Uh, they definitely have an analysis on human behavior. Um, and because of that, that's one of the reasons they've stayed so timeless is because they're based on human behaviors and themes. And so they transcend centuries, thousands of years because human behavior hasn't changed. There's nothing new under the sun, so they're still relatable today. All right, so Sophocles, tragedy, Aristophanes, comedy. All right, we need to get into the excellence of art really quick, and then we will be all set with everything Greek. The Greeks excelled in many forms of art, but the most highly prized were architectural, urns, sculptures, temples. They were the thing that they were most proud of and the things that they excelled at the most. They often had a graceful form, and when it came to paintings and stuff, the Greeks often painted scenes of everyday life, battles, athletic competitions, the activities of the gods, things like that. We see that um, let me see what I need to add here. We're gonna just focus on just one building. There's a lot we could say about Greek sculptures, like, but we're just gonna talk about the Parthenon and the different types of columns. Okay? So let me give you a little bit of context to where and when the Parthenon was built. So yet again, the golden age of Greek culture was also the golden or classical age of Greek architecture. The Greek building styles became a standard of excellence that later generations would copy, and nothing better reflects that beauty than the Parthenon. It was probably the most spectacular of all of these temples that were built, and we can still get a glimpse of its former beauty and grandeur today, even though it's in a ruined state. Now, the Athenians dedicated the Parthenon to the city's patron goddess, Athena. And during the days of Pericles, it had a 40-foot high gold and ivory statue of Athena that stood inside the temple. The building is rectangular in shape and is supported by towering columns in beautiful symmetry. The Greeks gave it the appearance of solidity and symmetry, and they even added some cool little optical illusions. So the steps leading up to the entrance are actually slightly curved at the center, and this feature gives the eye the illusion that they are flat. Um, but if they were truly flat, that would actually make them appear dipped. The columns that are placed close, there are columns that are placed closer together at the sides of the building than in the middle. and that spacing gives the appearance of regularity. Likewise, the floor rises gently at the center, giving the whole appearance of a swelling, living edifice. So the Parthenon symbolized the cultural achievements of the Greeks. It also symbolized, unfortunately, their spiritual blindness. The Apostle Paul visited Athens some 500 years after its golden age, and he preached against the idolatrous practices that the Parthenon and the statue of Athena represented. And we're actually going to go through Acts 17 in class, but if this is if you're listening to this video in a later year, know that that's something to note. Acts 17 addresses the idolatry of Athens. And Paul does a great job using logic and reason, which was their neural pathways of thinking. He uses where they're at to help them see that there is more than just the idolatry in Greek mythology. So, Acts 17, check that out. Let's talk quickly about the columns and then we'll be all done. So from the columns and capitals, capitals are like the top of the column, the head of it. We can actually distinguish the three styles or orders of architecture. So, number one, you have the Doric style, which was solid, strong, masculine looking features. Number two, you have the Iconic style, which is splendor and graceful elements, and it often has the scroll shape capital. And then number three, you have the Corinthian style, whose capitals were richly carved and ornately designed. And so that is also the three different eras. The Doric was first, the Ionic was second, and the Corinthian was third. So the way you remember that is that we add syllables for every new era. So the first one, Doric, has two syllables. Um, and then, oh, does this work? Ionic. Yep, it does. So Doric has two syllables, Ionic has three syllables, and the Corinthian has quite a bit more. So Doric was first, Ionic was second, Corinthian was third, and we see them progressively get more ornate. So I think we are all set on everything Greek. Please let me know if you have any questions about all the people that we heard about today. Um, Oh, there was one other thing that I wanted to mention about Hippocrates, the famed physician of the Golden Age, the father of medicine. That is where we get the Hippocratic Oath that the people in the medical field still take today. So, he was the first to write that and everything. So that came from him, the father of medicine, the Hippocratic Oath. And if you've never heard it before, let me just read it real quick, just so you kind of have a taste of the Hippocratic Oath. This is just an excerpt. I swear that I will carry out, according to my ability and judgment, this oath and this written contract. I will use treatments to help the sick according to my ability and judgment, but never with a view to injury and wrongdoing. Neither will I administer a poison to anybody when asked to do so, nor will I suggest such a course. Similarly, I will not give to a woman a pessary to cause an abortion, but I will keep pure and holy both my life and my art. Now, if I carry out this oath and break it not, may I gain forever reputation among all men for my life and for my art. But if I transgress it and break it, may the opposite befall me. And that's the original Hippocratic Oath that he had all of his students commit to. All right, next time we talk for Unit 5 will be in the Roman age. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you later.